On this week's episode, is it cool to once again travel to Raccoon City for Resident Evil fans? Is it cool to once again travel to Raccoon City for Resident Evil fans? Can Kingdom Hearts 3 be the first gaming breakout hit of 2019? And who would we like to see in Mortal Kombat 11? Get over here as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to each and every one of our programs as we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He's the Sub-Zero of Humanica Media. You got to check out everything going on today on humanicamedia.com, Humanica Media on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and so much more. It is my good friend. It is Josh Peterson. Mortal Kombat!
Hold on, sorry, my dog is slurping water behind me. Can you hear that?
Just a teeny bit. I used to hear it more in the past, in our first few episodes. Yeah, you heard.
Okay, he's gone now. Yeah, Gerald, your Mortal Kombat intro is kind of a fatality, man.
No, I think it's more of a babality, my friend. But okay, whatever. But it is going to be a great episode we've got for everyone out there today. We're going to be talking about Resident Evil 2 hitting the limelight and also every other thing that's coming out in the Resident Evil universe that is being talked about, being agreed upon. And we're going to talk about if it's cool to like Resident Evil once again. Plus, also as well, Kingdom Hearts 3 hits the shelves this week as the first big video game release of 2019. We're going to talk about if the response, the interest level, and the whole 9 yards is going to create that type of interest that we saw last year from a similar type game last year from a game that was released at a similar point in time this year, Monster Hunter, and if this will be a great way to close out this Kingdom Hearts trilogy. Plus, also, we're going to talk to the great folks at 49101 and Buyer Dynamic from my interviews I had with them at CES 2019. Plus, and also, we're going to have the guy, and also, we finally tracked them down. They're the guys from Go Brothers Gaming, Eric and Octavio Gomez. They're going to stop by to talk about a lot of things going on in retro gaming and why people are getting back into retro gaming once again. They're awesome. Their awesome organization, Go Brothers Gaming, is a major player in the video game scene here in Las Vegas, and they're going to be talking about all the great things going on with why. And they're going to be talking about why retro gaming is now hot again and why a lot of people are really getting into the retro gaming scene. And last but not least, we're going to be covering Mortal Kombat 11. An interesting thing happened as far as a movement to try and get let's just say, out of the box type character into Mortal Kombat 11, which is coming up this year. We're going to talk about that, plus some of the ideas that we have going on when it comes to characters that we think belong in Mortal Kombat 11. But first, my friend, it's all about Resident Evil right now. Resident Evil is now coming back into the forefront with the release of the remake of Resident Evil 2. It is getting very high marks out there. A lot of people are really digging this remake. Capcom, it looks like, for once with the Resident Evil world, I'm not going to say for once, but for once in a great while, really has done a nice job with a Resident Evil product. It looks like from all the reviews, very, very solid reviews on Metacritic, that they've done a really great job. And I've watched some of the footage already. It really scary, really intense, and it brings back those memories that I had originally of the original Resident Evil 2. Your thoughts on Resident Evil right now, the Resident Evil 2 game that's out? Do you think this is a good starting off point for more great Resident Evil games to come?
I hope so. I mean, because what the first one, they did a remaster of number one, and that was really just a remaster of the GameCube remasters. So they didn't really utilize the engine that they had going for Resident Evil 2. I have really good memories of the Resident Evil 2. My big issue with it was when it became, more than just zombies or cults or slugs or, flying bats and stuff like that. But I don't know, man, because like Resident Evil 5 was the first one after 2 that I really kind of devoted myself to playing all the way through. And I've got it was fun, but like I said, man, like I miss when it was just zombies. You go into the mansion in the first one, and it's zombies and dogs are okay too. The zombie dogs are cool, but they kind of like I don't know, strayed so far away from that basic formula. So it was nice to go back to Resident Evil 2 and just I bought the remaster, but it's nice to I've been watching some people play, and it's nice to see it going back to its roots. You're just a cop. It's your first day on the job. You're trying to survive the night, and all of a sudden, all this stuff keeps happening. And I remember playing that game when I was in, well, I think I was elementary school when it came out. And remember every time you like go into a new screen and you can hear the sounds, but you did not know where they were coming from. And so the first thing you did, you always looked around to make sure there wasn't anyone near you, and then you always ran out of ammo. Yeah, and it's funny because the zombies would come at you, and there'd be a doorway in between you and the zombie, and you had to run. Yeah, I mean, you had to get there and pray that they were not going to come after you because you got game over so fast in that game is crazy. From what I understand, though, with this, they lost the tank controls. You're free to move around. It's more of a kind of the style of Resident Evil 5. So I'm really excited to play it. I haven't opened it yet, but I know that you have some thoughts. So talk to me.
Well, I like what you said about where Resident Evil has gone off the rails after Resident Evil 5, which was probably, I guess, from a commercial standpoint, one of the high marks of the series when it comes to when it comes to the video game series. And like you said, it looks like at some point in time they jumped the shark with a lot of stuff that was going on with Resident Evil in the video
Hey,
game
wait, real
lineup.
quick. Do you know that it's ironic that you said jump the shark because in the last one there were zombie sharks?
Yes, yes. So I've been told. So there goes the irony right there. But I want to talk about what I want to say is that the where Capcom was going with the Resident Evil series and Resident Evil Raccoon City, just that was horrible. That was horrid. The reviews were awful on it, and it just seemed like they did not know where they wanted to go with the series or have a great direction with what they wanted to do with the video game series. And it looks like getting back to the basics, just doing simple remakes, has revitalized the Resident Evil formula and made it palpable and also attractive again for people to get into the Resident Evil game series.
Yeah, and plus, like they have what the three Nemesis was three, if I remember correctly, and then they had four, which was literally like it's one of the most praised Resident Evil games of all time. So if they could still ride those two out if they were to do a remake of three and then four. They could be hearing people's praises for at least the next 4 or 5 years until they get their act together with whatever comes next for that franchise. But who really knows at this point, man? I didn't expect them to release Resident Evil 2. When I saw the trailer at E3, I did not know what it was until I saw the Raccoon City, and all of a sudden it clicked. I'm like, oh, that's what that is. And yeah, and they can even go backwards because they got Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil 1, if they actually did a legit remake of that one. There's a lot of places they could go, and I would love to see. And I always want to ask you this. So, do you think they're ever going to reach a point where they feel the need to reboot the franchise in the same way? Because remember, Ninja Theory was rebooting Devil May Cry, so it makes me wonder if we're ever going to get to a point where they kind of wear out the storyline and need to start from scratch and bring us something new, especially with a game like Days Gone coming out. Um, I don't really know what the future for zombie games is going to be.
I agree with you. I think at some point in time, they are going to go ahead and reboot the series in its entirety. Maybe just go ahead and just call it Resident Evil from scratch and just make it like a Resident Evil, 2020 type release or 2022 or something like that, when they're finished, maybe like you said, rebooting, remaking Resident Evil 3 Nemesis and Resident Evil 4. I think that's where they need to stop. They don't need to do a Resident Evil 5 remake. I think that's still kind of fresh, kind of new enough where they don't need to touch that one. But I do think that they should go ahead with the Resident Evil 3 and 4 because the tremendous amount of reception they've received for this Resident Evil 2 remake. And then you see the great scores. It's got over a 90% on Metacritic from what I'm seeing. And that's just truly a great opportunity for Capcom to capitalize on not only on a Resident Evil 2, but again, Resident Evil 3 and Resident Evil 4 remakes. So that's good news for them. And yes, if it continues to be successful with Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 remaking those, then I think they should go ahead and start from scratch with a reboot of the entire series and go ahead from the start and try and go ahead with a Resident Evil game that's brand new, maybe touch on some of the things that made it so special, but also try and create a new offshoot of the universe that people can really get into and call their own and call their own. Now, this also leads me into more speculation because the Resident Evil franchise as a whole, when it comes to not only the game, but also the movies, Sony has talked about rebooting the series when, as you and I talked about on about a year ago, I think was the final Resident Evil that we thought with the final Resident Evil with Mila Jovovich. That one was going to go ahead, and that one that one was released, I think, what, in 2018 or 2017.
I think it was 2017, if I remember correctly, because it wasn't last year. I'm pretty sure it was 2 Januaries ago.
Okay, because it came out around the same time as Underworld, if I'm not mistaken. I think we did an episode where it was Underworld versus Resident Evil. But anyways, that series as a whole, as far as on the big screen, made over $1 billion on the big screen. And I know you kind of winced when I was going to say before our show. Yeah, I know you kind of winced before our show when I was saying that we were going to talk about the movie series being rebooted because it's heavily rumored that Sony's going to tap back into that marketplace with new Resident Evil ventures. It's all about the money, my friend. At the end of the day, especially with a company like Sony that just wants to go ahead and just churn out new Resident Evil films. And that doesn't even include what was announced recently as far as a Resident Evil TV series coming to Netflix. That's going to even pollute the waters even more. So it's great for Resident Evil hardcore fans, but it might dilute the water a bit when it comes to the Resident Evil product overall.
Okay, see, here's with the last batch of Resident Evil, because that was Screen Gems, right? And Sony that put that out.
Yes.
And they didn't know where they were going. They got so far ahead of the games. And by the time they finally started reincorporating what was in the games, it was too late. They had already messed everything up. And, if you watched how it ended, that was the worst ending to a series that people had devoted over 10 years to that I have ever seen. And it was disappointing to say the least. So that being said, if they're gonna make a new franchise and they're gonna have move it forward through multiple entries, they need to have a starting point for the story and a stopping point. They need to know where they want to end up so that they're not just pulling things out of their butts. I think they're because who was it that made that movie? Was it Lynn Wiseman? That's Mia Jovovich's husband.
Let me check real quick.
Or is that Kate Beckinsale's husband? I can't ever remember.
I thought it was Paul W. Anderson.
Okay, yes, that's it. He's working on a Monster Hunter movie with Mia Jovovich right now. So
I think you got to say Paul W.S. Anderson because there's the Wes Anderson that's out there that also makes movies.
Grand Budapest Hotel, man. But yeah, so if they're gonna do something, okay. And as for the Netflix movie, okay, so regular films they need to have a starting point, stopping point. Netflix show, they need to incorporate it into the movie because that's too much Resident Evil. Because right now, I don't like how you have to watch 3 animated Resident Evil movies to understand what the heck is going on in the game. Each time a new game comes out, they always have like 2 or 3 animated films you have to watch. So if they're gonna do more Resident Evil movies and a Resident Evil Netflix series, either the Netflix series needs to stand on its own or they need to incorporate it into the movies, but the movies also need to have a coherent storyline that's just it's not just zombies and explosions like the original franchise was.
Let's go over to Vegas. Let's go here. Let's go to Washington D.C. Let's go. Yeah, it just went all over the place, did it not?
Yeah, it was everywhere, and, like, the last movie was
Actually,
just
even the North Pole or very cold. I remember going into the ice, the like what, as Alaska or North, just it went to really just strange places all around the world, but still somehow had a connection to Raccoon City.
well, 90% of the last movie took place in a car.
Yes, this is true.
Yeah, they need to do something, and then in that movie, they didn't tell you what happened to all the video game characters they had incorporated in, what the 5th one, I think, where because they had Chris and Claire Redfield, they had, didn't Michelle Rodriguez even came back for one of them? Didn't she?
Yeah, she did. She was killed, and then got turned, and then got killed, and then got brought back. Yeah, it just was really confusing. I hear you. I think it was on the last one she came back.
Yeah, so they need to people will only forgive bad writing for video game and I would love if they broke the mold of bad video game movie, bad game to screen adaptations, but, I think that people are only willing to forgive bad writing for so long, and we're living in an era where you cannot make a movie like the old Resident Evils anymore. It has to have a purpose, and it has to have a point, it has to be something that, leaves people thinking, and I don't think that those old Resident Evil films would even stand a chance of doing well today.
So this I want to leave off when it comes to the Resident Evil conversation here. What are your thoughts on this rebirth, this re-emphasis on Resident Evil? Are you happy with it, or do you think it's just going to go, like you said, it's going to become diluted, and we're going to have a situation like we did a couple years ago with not only bad games coming out with the Resident Evil moniker on it, but also bad Resident Evil movies and Resident Evil products out along with it as well.
Well, Resident Evil is a perfect example of a company beating a brand to death, literally, no pun intended. And if they're going to do something with this, they need to be smart about it because I honestly feel like the era of the zombie flick has come and gone. You see it in the Walking Dead ratings tanking. You see it in just a lack of interest in any type of zombie flicks now. Because remember, they used to be huge, man. You go to any store, you'll find Walking Dead comic books, you'll find the action figures, you'll find George Romero movies. You don't see that anymore. And I know look at the trouble that World War Z 2 is having getting off the ground, and even the follow up that was supposed to be 28 months later, I think the movie was called, like that got canceled I think a few years ago.
Was it
But
was it 28 days and then 28 years later, correct?
well, it's 28 days, 28 weeks was the second one, and then
Okay, yeah,
I
okay.
forget what the third one was going to be called. But I honestly I feel like the time for zombies has come and gone. So if they're going to do something with the Resident Evil franchise, it has to be something thought provoking. I almost look at it as maybe some type of Westworld situation. That just because you have the ability to create life and do these things doesn't give you the right to, like a Michael Crichton stance on regeneration, if that makes sense.
Well, I think there is a chance for a lot of people that are interested in the Resident Evil franchise as a whole to be excited because Resident Evil 2, the remake, has come out to very good reviews, a lot of great interest, and there's also a lot more interest in the Resident Evil TV series coming to Netflix and a reboot from Sony. So, like you said, people have to be a little bit wary and a little bit cautious because Capcom, Sony, and everything, and anyone else attached to Resident Evil in the past has gone out of their way to go ahead and bleed it dry. And we've seen a lot of bad products with the Resident Evil name from it. So at this point in time, I'll tell you what, oh, hold on, sorry. I'll tell you what, at this point in time, a lot of people out there that are interested in the Resident Evil product and the Resident Evil franchise, they have a reason to be excited because things are kind of good once again for Resident Evil. Just be wary and just be cautious because things can change quite a bit and quite a bit very quickly with a bad TV series here, a bad film somewhere else, and also a bad video game with the Resident Evil name on it. It just takes that little effort, just takes that much to have things go awry. But for right now, things are pretty good in Raccoon City. What are your thoughts out there on the Resident Evil franchise? Are you excited once again to be a part? Are you excited once again to get into the Resident Evil franchise with the remake of Resident Evil 2? With the news that there's possibly more Resident Evil movies and also a Resident Evil TV series going to Netflix coming along the way. Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Also, as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. My friend, did you get the news? Well, we were talking. My friend, did you hear? Excuse me. My friend, we were talking on Friday, the episode on Friday's episode of the PCC Multiverse about some of the things that were going on with Nintendo and what type of characters that they had to reach you into that could actually provide good games for the Nintendo Switch. Did you hear the news about Metroid Prime 4? Something that Nintendo did have in development, but it was at the point where it was just not going to be a quality release. So they're redoing it again from scratch with another studio actually stepping in to make it. It seems to me that Nintendo actually for once, Nintendo actually had the foresight to say, hey, this game looks like it was going to stink. It wasn't going to be able to be a good game for the Nintendo Switch, but at least at this point, we're going to go ahead and redo it and see if we can bring out something that's quality that actually might garner some interest back into the Metroid Prime series coming up a little bit later than a lot of people were expecting.
Yeah, they must have been listening to the show, man. It happened as soon as the episode dropped. Uh,
Yeah,
no,
wait, doesn't it always?
it does. It does. We are the leaders of information dispersal in pop culture, just so everyone out there knows. It's cool. I'm glad they have that level of quality control, but again, that's going to be if they're starting from scratch, it's going to be at least 3 years since we see or until we see that game. So, whatever predictions we had of that game coming out next year are now gone. So, I love it. I hope that it's good. I hope I would, like I said last time, I would like a reboot of the franchise and maybe a more emotional storyline. But Nintendo does what Nintendo does, and everything they touch turns to money anyways. So who knows?
Not always, and it's not always, and some of that has been in the Metroid universe. And we talked about that on the PCC Multiverse about how the Metroid series is a series that is beloved by a hardcore few, but not always commercially successful. And you know what? Give Nintendo some great kudos for seeing what this product was going to become and putting the kibosh on it, the halt on it, and saying, you know what, this is not a game that we want to go ahead and release maybe this year or next year. We want to go ahead and make some major changes and just start from scratch. So they went ahead and said, you know what, we're going to give this game the development of it to US based retro studios, and they're just going to go ahead and start it up from there. So yes, like you said, it probably won't be now another 3-4 years on it. Probably may not even be on the Nintendo Switch by the time it finally comes out, but for at least it's a smart move. And we don't see this every day from developers, from publishers, or even from big name companies like the big three at Microsoft, Sony, or Nintendo, where they just say, you know what, we're going to cut our losses and we're going to redo it from scratch. They usually say, you know what, if this is a turkey, then we're going to either release it or just cut it off entirely. We rarely see them go ahead and just say, you know what, we're going to wipe the slate clean and do it all over again.
Yeah, but that also makes me wonder, are we ever going to see a reboot from Nintendo?
A reboot in what fashion?
Just something that starts from scratch, like a we're probably never going to see a Mario reboot of their friend, because everything that they've come out with is always connected to whatever came before it. So I'm
And this will be a Metroid Prime 4. So yeah, it will
yeah,
not be its own entity. It'll be just part, like you said, of a existing franchise.
but I think what this shows though is that, or I don't know if it necessarily shows it, but I think that there's some things where franchises don't necessarily stand the test of time. Who's to, because they need to, consecutive releases is important, but like I like what Zelda does, where each entry is its own thing, and because it's easier to follow. But you have kids like, you want to show them Mario, you're gonna have to go back and show them all the Marios from the beginning in order for them to fully understand the legacy of that Mario. So I wonder if Nintendo will ever be in the business of rebooting something from scratch and what that would look like.
I agree with you on that. Maybe they're afraid to, or like you said, they're very hesitant to go ahead and produce original IPs. Splatoon is the last one I could think of that's really done them well over the past, what, 5, 10 years, that has really done them well. That is an original IP that I can think of. I don't think of. Is there any others off the top of your head that's not a Mario, Donkey Kong, Zelda, or any familiar character related? That's just, like I said, an original IP from scratch. That's not Splatoon.
I honestly cannot. I they have had other entries in big series. Xenoblade Chronicles is one. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles is another. But those have all been attached to bigger franchises already. They've just been standalone stories. So I can't, with the exception of Splatoon and I guess Arms. Is that the one where you did or?
Yeah, but that's Nintendo ARMS, but I don't think that really scored that high with audiences.
Yeah, yeah. So there's not a lot of examples of them doing that. So I think Metroid will be the true test, though. Like if this one doesn't sell that well, then maybe they'll rethink their strategy moving forward with that franchise. Maybe they will reboot it. Who knows?
And I will probably get the comment that, hey, you know what? Don't forget about the sequel to one of their most popular games of this generation in 1, 2, 3, 4 Switch instead of 1, 2, 3 Switch
We all just want
as an original IP.
we all just want more scissor clips. Come on.
No, that's true. That's true. Now that actually was a very cool game to play, and I know that's still somewhat of a favorite on the Nintendo Switch. And people do get a Nintendo Switch. That's probably one of the first low budget games that I would have them go out and get because that's a lot of fun to play. But like I said, it's going to be a great episode that we've got for you today. We've got a lot coming up. Later on, we're going to be talking about Mortal Kombat 11, Kingdom Hearts 3. Uh, we're going to be talking to the guys from Go Brothers Gaming, Eric and Octavio Gomez, about retro gaming, just a lot of video game talk. I know that's been dominating our news lately, but with a slow marketplace when it comes to television and when it comes to television and movies and sci-fi and comic books and all that right now, and video games has taken the forefront. So that's what's trending right now in pop culture. So that's why there's a focus on it. Glass in its second weekend seemed to took the box office in a little bit of a slow weekend. The Kid Who Would Be King and Serenity, both of those films tanked at the box office. Sorry, Josh, and The Kid Who Would Be King. I know that looked interesting to you, but unfortunately, it didn't quite work out that way.
Oh man, disappointment.
Well, a disappointment for Patrick Stewart because I know he was excited to finally play a wizard and finally get approached to be a wizard, in a film or in a movie. So I know that was a big disappointment for him this weekend with the bomb that is A Kid Who Would Be King. But you know, things are looking up in the future for the movie scene because Lego Movie 2 is coming out in the not too distant future, and a lot of other good things as well. And like I said before in our movie preview, this still looks like it's going to be the biggest year ever for movies. But right now it is video games. That's our focus right now. And coming up, we're going to be talking again about Kingdom Hearts 3, Mortal Kombat 11, retro gaming with the guys from Go Brothers Gaming. But right after the break, we're going to be talking to the folks from Biodynamic. They're at CES 2019. My interview with them from CES 2019, real quick, just telling us real briefly what's coming up at the audio maker known as Biodynamic. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back with the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's Gerald coming right back at you here. My friend, Kingdom Hearts 3 is coming this week to store shelves. Finally, after many years of speculation, after many years of being in development, maybe it was just a lot of stuff that Disney didn't want to deal with or whatnot, but Kingdom Hearts 3 is finally coming to gamers this week. There's a lot of anticipation for it. Very good reviews. Right now, it's got an 88 on Metacritic, so that's very strong out there. Your thoughts on Kingdom Hearts 3 and your thoughts on Kingdom Hearts 3 first off as a game, do you have that type of interest for it, and are you excited to see that it's getting really solid reviews?
Kingdom Hearts is like the Rush of video games for me. You know, you can listen to one or two Rush songs, but if you listen to a whole album, you're gonna need Advil pretty quickly. Kingdom Hearts is the story is convoluted and impossible to follow. I am probably gonna play the third one at some point, but I'm in no hurry to go out and play it right now. Have you been following any of the like Polygon or any of their IGN what they're saying about it?
I know you were going to delve into it because you talked about that at the end of one of our episodes. So, before I talk about the pre order controversy that I know our good friend Jamie Monroy from GameSource had to deal with, let's hear what you were talking about when it comes to IGN and Polygon.
Okay, well, according to IGN and Polygon, this is a two-parter thing, but they both agreed that the game has kind of fizzled out. Like it was really had a really strong opening, and it was kind of fun throughout, but then it was an ending that was not. It was a Shadow of the Tomb Raider ending. Not an ending worthy of the all the time and effort you put into it. And then the comment sections in these reviews are hilarious because you have your Nomura fanboys and then people who are just casual gamers, and the casual gamers, they do not understand the story for the life of them. And I totally get that because I don't understand it either. Someone put this thread up on Reddit that said Kingdom Hearts is about you have Sora's nobody's nobody, and then you have the other character's nobody, and that character's nobody's nobody. Um, so that, and according to the Nomura fanboys, Nomura can do no wrong, and it's interesting because what I wonder if people who really like the franchise can even follow the franchise, because a lot of people I talk to who like the game, they say they don't even know what's going on with the story. They're just watching it or playing because the worlds are interesting. But what I'm hearing now about the worlds is that it's typical Nomura where there's a lot of the worlds are big and they're open, but there's not a lot in them. So there's I'm curious. I do want to play. I need to play Kingdom Hearts 2 still. I played the first one and then I tried playing what was the card game one? Re Chain of Memories, and that was a disaster, so I just watched it on YouTube. But I do need to go back and play some of these games because I feel like I do need to catch up before I play Kingdom Hearts 3 because from what I understand, they're like the X-Men franchise, how they keep rewriting the storylines. So
And they do reference the one some of the things that went on in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 in the game. From most of the reactions to it, it is recommended, similar to what we've seen in Glass. It is recommended to watch the previous two iterations, but it is not a 100% required.
Yeah, that's what I'm being told too. But I got story OCD, so if I'm gonna play something, I need to go back and play the others too. But anyways, what were you gonna say about it?
I know there was also an issue because uh, I know there was also issues because this is the first high profile video game release of 2019, and in doing so a lot of people, similar to what we saw with Monster Hunter, a lot of people had a great interest to go ahead and buy the first video game release, AAA, the first big video game release of the year. Maybe it's because they would like the actual title, Kingdom Hearts. Maybe liked what they saw before from the from the series so long ago. Maybe like you, they've actually got into it with the different versions that have been out. But also the fact that it is the first high profile video game release. I think a lot of people are interested just because of that. And pre orders for it are somewhat depending on where you go, are a little bit problematic. I know with GameStop, they over pre-ordered, which to me is a cardinal sin when it comes to video game retailers, especially for someone, especially for an entity like GameStop, which is, admittedly struggling right now, losing money hand over fist, possibly being bought out by another entity in February, and quite likely that a lot of stores may close in the near future, and their order for games got cut back somehow, and a lot of people got shortchanged when it comes to their pre-orders. They oversold on their pre-orders, which, as you and I both know, is their game. Pre-ordering is their thing, and to have people getting to have people like what we experience, to have people like what Jamie what to have people like our friend Jamie Monroy of GameSource experience the fact that he gets the letter saying, hey, we couldn't accommodate your request on the pre-order, our bad, here's a $25 credit. That's, to me, is a disappointment, especially the fact that this is the first high profile release of the year. That makes it something that's not really very wise for GameStop or anybody else that really truly wants to go ahead and carry Kingdom Hearts to any extent. I don't hear these things right now from Walmart, Amazon, Best Buy. I don't hear these things from them, but I just hear these issues at GameStop, which leads a lot of people away. And this is the worst thing that can happen to GameStop at the worst possible time.
Yeah, but in all reality, yeah, GameStop's not doing themselves any favors. The only reason people still go to GameStop really is for their, uh, you know, game. I guess people still trade games and stuff, but also for mostly for pre-orders. Like I remember, I was talking to you how I always like to go out anytime there's a new Halo or something big that I want to buy. I go out and I kind of stand out in line. I talk to people about the game and stuff because that's fun to me. That's kind of been a tradition since I was in before high school. I think back when Halo 2 came out was the first time I did it. But in all reality, you are most likely going to be able to go to Target or Walmart and just walk in and buy it if you get there. The day that it's released, you're probably going to be able to just pick one up. So, yeah, GameStop needs to get their act together. Who knows how much longer they're going to be in business? Who knows what's going to happen when this other company takes over? But I'm almost at the point where I'm done shopping at GameStop.
And that's a shame because GameStop needs to be open for the video game marketplace to really be fully effective. If GameStop goes, that's another major chink in the armor as far as where people can go to get video games. And these specialty retailers, I mean, that goes back to what we've talked about with Toys R Us and so many other entities that have died because specialty retailing is really hard to it's really hard in the days of Walmart.com and Amazon.com to really stay afloat and be something that's out there that's a viable entity in, for people to be shopping, viable entity for people that are shopping out there. So that's a tough deal for anybody out there. Our thoughts are with Jamie and anybody else who experienced this type of ordeal, but there is other options for you to go ahead and get either a pre-digital download or your local Walmart or Best Buy, what have you, if you want to deal with them. Because Kingdom Hearts 3 is, again, the first high-profile release in the video game world in 2019, and I think it's really going to do well, at least initially. It's got strong reviews, and that, to me, is something that I think goes a long way. So it will emulate It will emulate very much what happened with Monster Hunter, because we saw when we were talking about the top 20 NPD, top 20 games of 2018, we were talking about how Monster Hunter, took that momentum from its January release, and it transferred and it transferred and made itself into a top 10 release. Will we see the same thing again from Kingdom Hearts 3? I'm not so sure, but I still think there's good fortune ahead for Kingdom Hearts 3 because I think it's a nice enough way to close out the series.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still excited to play it. I love the idea of going to the Pirates of the Caribbean world and seeing Frozen. Toy Story looks cool. So if anything, if you don't play it for the story, from what I'm told, it's worth it just to play it for to see the different worlds and hear the soundtrack.
and get the special moves that are out there that also have this great and how should I say not so accidental link to a lot of the rides you would find at a Disneyland or Disney World.
And what do you think about the streaming restrictions that they're putting on the game, though?
That to me is an issue. You should not put anything. You could almost see that coming because we've seen this before with a game similar to that type when it comes to Kingdom Hearts 3. Any restrictions on it right now, it's just mind numbing because the fact is you're out there, you want to go ahead and a lot of people are interested in it, and the games that promote themselves and promote it widely and don't have those restrictions seem to do better in the long term, and because people have a really long memory when it comes to anything that's inconveniencing them as gamers. So Kingdom Hearts 3 should be allowed to be shown in full because it's close enough to the release date where you know what, it's all good at this point in time. People are going to buy it or not buy it, and you know what, if they're watching it all the way through, they may want to go ahead and experience it themselves.
Well, here's the thing. I totally get if it were for the purpose of spoilers, but from what I understand, they don't want anyone monetizing a stream of Kingdom Hearts 3, which is weird because that's not money that Square would get anyways because someone else is purchasing the game. So it's just kind of a weird thing to me. If you're telling people not to stream your game, you're kind of harming yourself more than anything because you're destroying potential interest in a product.
Absolutely, and that's free advertising for you. Yes, these streamers are getting a lot of money off of it, but you know what? Their Square Enix is getting free advertisement for the game that's getting very good reviews. So there's nothing to be ashamed of. If it had been a situation like Bethesda and Fallout 76 where it was getting really lukewarm reviews to poor reviews, that's a different issue because you really don't want to show the people a bad product. But Kingdom Hearts 3 has got nothing to be ashamed of. You talked about the ending being a little bit lackluster, but overall, an 88 on Metacritic shows that there's a lot of critics out there that have approved of the game and that a lot of people soon after, when they're playing it, will enjoy it as well. And from my standpoint, if it's that good of a game overall, it looks like it will probably show up well and be free advertising for Square Enix. So I think that's a bad move on their part, and unfortunately may lead to a loss of sales. But I still think overall it will sell pretty good. How well it will sell is going to be an issue down the road. What's that?
That is, remember how we always talk when we talk about Dragon Ball Z games, how we say, or I always say that there needs to be an RPG of Dragon Ball Z. That's it,
Oh,
man. They
okay.
announced it today.
There you go. There you go. Dragon Ball Z RPG.
Oh, dang. That should be in the theme song.
Dragon Ball Z RPG. Almost like ABC. Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, yeah. The theme song sung by
RPG.
Jackson 5. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. There you go. What are your thoughts out there on Kingdom Hearts 3? Are you excited to play it? Are you going to be playing it this week? Are you going to be getting it down the road? Or are you interested at all in delving into the Kingdom Hearts series? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Also, as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Well, when we return, we've got the guys from Go Brothers Gaming, Eric and Octavio Gomez. They're going to stop by talking about sharing their thoughts on the retro gaming scene and how it helps and what they're seeing at all the events that they do in Las Vegas, but also what it does as far as the Nintendo Switch and why people are actually getting into retro gaming once again. And after that, we're going to be talking about Mortal Kombat 11. There's some things going on with Mortal Kombat 11. A lot of people are gaining interest in. A viral campaign is going about that a lot of people are really interested in partaking, and that gave us a chance to think about what characters would we like to see in Mortal Kombat 11. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And also our good friends from 49101, we stopped by at CES 2019 to talk about what's coming up for them. And we're back to close out the show. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's Gerald coming right back at you here. If you need a listing of where we're at because we're being played on radio all around the world 7 days a week, check us out, Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. You'll see a listing of all the different radio stations and the days and times that we're on. And if you want to hear us on our podcast networks like Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so much more, it has a listing of many of those podcasting options as well. My friend, you've got a great thing going on with Humanica Media. So share the goods, my friend. What's up with Humanica Media?
We put out a new episode of Topicocalypse yesterday. We're talking about technology, and Brian Kane wanted to talk about CES. So that's something right up your alley, man. But yeah, we're
and you didn't have me on, man. Bummer.
this was before. Actually, I just didn't think about it. I'm sorry. But no, we talk about robots and TVs and all kinds of interesting things. And of course, Denial, so-called nice guy, brings up sex robots as he always does. But it's up there now. If you want to listen to it, check it out on Podbean, iTunes, and all the usual places.
And also they're on every Tuesday night on the Podcast Radio Network. Just want to make sure we give a big shout out to Eric and Octavio Gomez from Go Brothers Gaming. We're looking forward to collaborating with them on another awesome charity game night at Retro City Games in April. Plus, they've got a lot of other great events coming up as well. If you want to know what they're up to in the Las Vegas area with all the stuff that they do, check them out again at Go Brothers Gaming on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. My friend, and also as well the folks from 49 101 and Biodynamic. Check out their awesome products as well. And I also want to give a shout out to our good friends at not only Vitabrace and not only Miracle Fruit Oil with their awesome gaming bracelet Vitabrace, but also our good friends at Rob McCallum Films and Retro City Games. And what happens if they go ahead and they order a Vitabrace?
Good question, Gerald. They get a free Sonic the Hedgehog video game. So you use the code found in this show, and we will send you a code for a free video game. So you're basically trading codes, but you also get $10 off your Vitabrace. So this is a win-win-win-win. So definitely check that out.
And I believe it's code 10, if I remember correctly, from my own voice earlier in the episode. But if you're listening out there on terrestrial radio and you can't actually go ahead and rewind back, you know what? Hey, it's code 10. You want to go ahead to vitabrace.com. You want to go ahead to miraclefruitoil.com, type in the code 10 when you buy your awesome Vitabrace gaming bracelet, which really gives you a helping hand when you're going ahead and battling it out there on the video game scene. You get lots of good stuff with it and $10 off. There you go. There you go. That's an awesome deal. So thank you again so much to all of our friends from them, Rob McCallum Films and Retro City Games. All right, my friend, before we head on out, we got to talk some Mortal Kombat 11. Jamie Monroy from GameSource coming up again. He actually dropped on the GameSource Facebook page, which you can check out at any point in time, something that actually went kind of viral from our location, an article from comicbook.com talking about a movement for Shaggy, of all people, Zoinks! Shaggy, from the Scooby-Doo franchise, actually being a lot of people being interested in getting him into as a DLC character for Mortal Kombat 11. Your thoughts on Shaggy getting into your thoughts on Shaggy possibly becoming that, and do you think it's actually even feasible for him to be a part of Mortal Kombat 11? Zoinks!
Ruh-roh. Okay, so let me explain the backstory behind this whole Shaggy thing. There's a meme. Okay, I don't understand meme culture very well. There was like moth memes, and there's
you and I both, man. This is why I don't do
memes.
memes. I don't do any of that stuff. I don't like memes.
There's a whole new like meme movement featuring Shaggy. So I just saw this yesterday. Someone had created a bunch of memes where like they're talking about how the cast was afraid to work with Shaggy on the set of Scooby-Doo because he was when he possessed the power of Shaggy, they could only be in the room with him for like 2 seconds or else they would literally explode. And they're like, they had to CG Scooby because all the dogs, the real ones, sensed his power and were too scared to come near him. So there's this whole meme thing going on. And I didn't know that that was like gonna explode into something big. It was I chuckled at it, but other than that, I was like, eh, it's kind of stupid. So I clicked on, but then lo and behold, I get on the internet today and Shaggy's everywhere. Why? I want to understand the trends. Why does this happen?
I don't know. People just pick this. People just pick these abstract things, and Shaggy is a character from. You know how old he is. The first show episode, the first episode that aired, I think, was when I was born. To give you an idea, how long ago that took place. And Shaggy, as funny as he is, as cool he is, as an awesome a cartoon character that he has in his place in history and all that, being the second banana to Scooby getting all the love and all that. And I like Shaggy personally above anything else when it comes to Scooby Doo franchise. And those original Scooby Doo cartoons, the original ones, not the stuff afterwards, were really good. But you know what? The internet is the internet. They just fixate on one thing. They'll throw something abstract out there and they go for it. What has happened since is that there's been an online petition to get Shaggy into Mortal Kombat 11. First of all, whoever owns the rights for Shaggy is not going to want to put Shaggy into Mortal Kombat 11 and have him put into a situation where his eyeballs get ripped out, or he gets impaled, or he has something go through his head, or has his heart ripped out, or his face ripped off, or anything else that could possibly happen in a fatality in Mortal Kombat 11. So, your thoughts on the possibility of Shaggy ever being in Mortal Kombat 11? Would you like to see it, or do you think it's actually even feasible?
It's not feasible, and I don't want to see it. This is like that whole stupid thing with what Knuckles last year, when there was like, "I will show you the way." Like that was stupid, and that should not have lasted as long as it did. And there's no way because Cartoon Network right now owns the rights to Scooby Doo, and there's no way because that's one of their biggest kids shows. There's no way that they're gonna let Mortal Kombat have Shaggy in any form because that's going to be a loss of Scooby Doo viewers for them because parents are going to be watching it like, oh, this is violent. I don't want my kid, being around Shaggy. It's a Deadpool thing, the Deadpool's funny in the cartoons and the Spider-Man crossovers, but then when the curiosity peaked and kids wanted to see him in another form, the parents were horrified.
So that leads me to a new set of questions here when it comes to the Mortal Kombat 11 game coming up. They're obviously going to have a roster full of great characters from the original Mortal Kombat series and also subsequent iterations of it. Your thoughts on different characters coming that you would love to see added as DLC? I know you got three in mind. I'll let you go first. What are the three characters you'd like to see appear? You'd like to see appear in Mortal Kombat 11?
I want to say Isaac from Dead Space is my first one because he can, you throw him in his space armor, you give him the little like giant laser staple gun, and let him have his telekinesis. Like he could stand on his own in there. And the blood, we've all seen Isaac getting ripped to pieces, anyways, from the Dead Space games. For those of us who aren't that good at them but still like to play them, so I could totally see that happening. And he's a very visceral character. The game is very visceral.
Oh, Visceral, there you
I
go.
know
Visceral
that was
Studios.
funny right there, and they were closed down. They got to experience the fatality given to them by EA too soon. But I would love to see Isaac in that game because it seems like it would mesh well. Does that just the
But
way.
also he hasn't been around in a while, and maybe actually would spark interest for not only him and the series, but it just seems like a character that's dormant right now that would be a great fit for Mortal Kombat 11.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't agree more. And my next one is Conan the Barbarian, especially with Conan. There's a new Conan game coming out. That's one of the most anticipated games of 2019.
Not
Um,
Conan Exiles, that's for
Not
sure. That was
Conan
awful.
Exiles. Yeah, geez, the dong slider. But yeah, Conan it would be a good property because it's dark, it's dark and it's violent. He's a very broody character. I think he could fit into the Mortal Kombat world perfectly, and that's just even with his history, not just his history in video games, but just who he is in the novels written by Robert E. Howard. That's just how he's always been. I think he'd fit perfectly into that world. Okay, my last one's a wild card here. I'm gonna say Claptrap because he's so used to living in a world of violence and destruction. And can you imagine how good his fatalities would be? Like just the stuff that they could make him say. it would be hilarious. And it's funny because he is in essence a very dark character. He's like he's a dark comedy on wheels.
But the only thing, the fatalities on him or him would not be as fun to watch, or also any type of action, because not only if you've seen the footage from Mortal Kombat 11 already and some of the fights that I've seen, actually during the course of the match itself, bones breaking, impalements, things of that nature that are not fatalities are still included in the game during the course of the fight, that I don't think would be repeated very well if Claptrap was a character on that end of the scale. Obviously, in what you're talking about, as far as giving the fatalities, yes, and the one-liners he'd give, that would be awesome. But I think it has to go both ways, as far as can Claptrap be something that is actually visually attractive when he's taking when he's taking damage as well.
Yeah, that's true, and, I could see him, like, was that scene in Borderlands 2 where he gets his eye ripped out by the thing? Like, I could see him having it granted, it wouldn't be bloody because he's a robot, but, like, they can rip his arms off and sparks would come out, and he could even make jokes as he's dying too, like, when he always goes, "Oh, goodbye, cruel world," like, that could be funny too, and I'm not necessarily saying this will ever happen, it probably will never happen, but it's just a funny thought to think about. It'd be cool to see that, that juxtaposition.
I've got three I'm thinking of as well. I think first off, something that you would like, and I know that because it's a series that you're really fond of, the Alien Xenomorph being one of the characters that would be part of it. I think that would be awesome. I know people would probably say the Predator and all that, and yeah, that would be a natural as well. But I think Alien Xenomorph being on a ship, as far as the level is concerned, and then you going ahead and seeing the fatalities, but also when you're going ahead and performing moves on the Alien Xenomorph, the green blood, the acid blood coming out, and all that. Yeah, that would be great. And like you were saying, you said it yourself, a fatality with the chest burster would be just awesome. Just would be truly awesome.
Was that your left field card? I love it, man. That's awesome. That'd be so cool to see. And and I guess it would depend on which one it is, but like it would be cool to see the chest burster, and then maybe one of the fatalities could be them like summoning one of the other three and they just jump off the screen and rip the other guy to shreds and run off. That'd be cool. I dig
Or
it.
one of the secret moves, or one of the special moves could be the little ones coming after and just right to the other person's right to the other guy's face.
I would hope that they would have a soundbite in there that has Bill Paxton going, "We're screwed, man. We're screwed."
Exactly, exactly. So that would actually be my first choice as far as Alien Xenomorph. Yes, Predator would also be something that's interesting. But I think I've seen, hasn't Predator been part of a fighting game before?
I don't remember. I know they had that top-down strategy game on Xbox. That was pretty fun.
Okay, I could have sworn Predator was already in a fighting game, but if not, Predator would be a great match as well. But I think for my second choice, I'm going to go with Big Daddy from BioShock, because he's got that drill motion right there that's going through the drill motion, as far as on his right arm, that could really just do some heavy damage. Now, sustaining damage, that would still, like Claptrap, be an issue. Can you make it be an issue where can you make it visually enticing enough to be somewhat entertaining? But obviously, from an offensive standpoint, especially with that drill going up, going out, going down, right on the other person's head, or going out through impaling, or whatever type of sick or gory type of fatalities that you can think of, I think Big Daddy would go along okay in that fashion.
It depends on. I agree. It would be cool. I mean, I think he would fit perfectly into that world, but it also depend on what are the physics. Smash Brothers, the bigger characters with the bigger weapons move a lot slower. Big Daddies are big characters with big drill arms, so I'm sure like their damage would be amazing, but I don't think they would be much on dodging.
But then you can also but then you also, as a special move, you can summon out the girl with like a deranged teddy bear that you could throw at the opponent as well.
What would be cool if she could inject them with the plasmas, and she just over injects them, and like the fatality could be like the eyes jump popping out or the head exploding or something.
That's true. Good point. Good point. There you go. That's true. Good point indeed. And then last but not least for me, I think this one's a natural. I mean, I know in the video game world right now, it's kind of iffy, especially after his last major outing, as far as what was expected of it. Duke Nukem, just because the fact, again, it goes back to what you would hear from Claptrap. Duke Nukem would provide a lot of profane but funny one-liners, and Gore is not too far behind from whatever he could do, sustaining damage and giving out damage. You could just think very creatively along the lines of what you wanted to do with Duke Nukem.
Yeah, I guess whatever makes him relevant again. He's kind of a dead property right now, so that'd be interesting to throw him back in there and then see, again, like with Dead Space, see what kind of interest is garnered in that. But his thing would be interesting because I don't see him dealing big damage physically. I think most of his stuff would have to revolve around weaponry because that's always been his call to fame.
Well, you do know his most you do know his main you do know his most famous one-liner, talking about, you know what, doing about to do down your throat, something about that. He's going to rip out something and do something with the throat. I just can't say what right now because you know you can't,
Just
because
use
he.
you can use your imagination listening.
Yes, yes. You can use your imagination on what he would do, but especially with his most famous line as far as his comeback, is when he goes ahead and kills the enemies in his own game, what he would do in the Mortal Kombat universe, especially in those fatalities. And actually, if you went along and specifically word for word pointed out his most famous line from there, not the bubblegum one, but the one where talking about poop and all that. So that
Right.
one would probably what?
Right. So if the listeners want to know what that line is, they can go on YouTube and make sure you listen to it with your mom too. So
No, no, don't listen. No, no, don't listen to what he was saying. No, 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 no. Let's not give anybody any ideas. But it is something that we're interested in with Mortal Kombat 11. No, we don't think Shaggy's a good fit for Mortal Kombat 11, but we thought today we'd bring up some other good ideas as well. What are your thoughts out there on Mortal Kombat 11? Are you excited for the release? And do you actually think Shaggy should go in? Do you actually think Shaggy should be a DLC character? And if not, and if yes or no, what other characters from the video game world or wherever in pop culture would you like to see in Mortal Kombat 11? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Also, as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. My friend, it's been a great episode. Want to thank everybody for being a part of it and listening to our great program. We've got another great one coming up on Friday with hopefully some Super Bowl predictions and a lot more coming along the way. Any last thoughts on the way out?
I finished Iron Blooded Orphans last night, and it was pretty dang good. So I do maybe on a future episode we'll talk about it because wow, that was an anime that packed a punch. I have not felt that emotional since Full Metal Pan or Full Metal Alchemist. So we'll elaborate on that later.
And you did talk about it a little bit beforehand when we were discussing as far as what was going on in the world of Gundam, which is thanks so much to everybody out there. It's become our most popular episode of all time. So thank you so much for listening to that episode and all of our shows. But yes, you talked a little bit about that when it comes to Gundam. So if you want to delve back into it and talk more about it now that you've finished that story arc, I'd love to hear more about it as well. I'd love to hear more about it, and at any point in time you can. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.